Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the official party and remain standing for the playing of the national and state anthem. This will be followed by the invocation. This will be followed by the invocation given by Chaplain Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Godiz. That's perfect.
Please bow your heads in prayer with me. Lord God, we invite you into our presence this day, asking for your comfort, strength, and grace to surround us. We are proud and happy for Lieutenant Colonel Udani. We have learned to respect and honor him during the time he has shared himself with each of us. Together we share in his joy on the occasion of his promotion to colonel. We also acknowledge your presence among us and praise you for your mighty works of creation and redemption. We thank you for the opportunity and responsibility we all share as servants of our nation. May we never lose sight of the truth that has been given us. We commend Lieutenant Colonel Udani to you for further service in the calling of our country. Your wise providence has again shone through in his selection for promotion. May you continue to grant him wisdom for his new duties and a spirit of sacrifice for the common good. Bestow upon him and his family the strength necessary for the challenges that lie ahead. Bless Lieutenant Colonel Udani on this special day. Amen.
Please take your seats. Thank you, Chaplain. Ladies and gentlemen and honored guests, first an introduction of our principals for today's ceremony. Presiding over the ceremony is the Adjutant General for the State of Hawaii, Major General Kenneth Hara. Our honoree, Lieutenant Colonel Udani, is joined us today by his wife, Jenalyn, and his son, Josh. At this time, we recognize our distinguished attendees present today. Please hold all applause to the end. Command Chief Master Sergeant Zandra Fox, Command Chief Senior Enlisted Leader for Hawaii National Guard. Major General Retired Arthur Joe Logan, former State of Hawaii Adjutant General and current City and County Police, Honolulu Police Department Chief. Major General Retired Gary Hara, former Deputy Commanding General, United States Army Pacific, and wife Diane. Brigadier General Walter Ross, Jr., Director of the Joint Staff, Hawaii National Guard. Brigadier General Retired Moses Kawivi Jr., former Director of the Joint Staff, Hawaii National Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming these distinguished guests. Today, I'll read you a portion of Lieutenant Colonel's biography. Lieutenant Colonel John V. Udani is the Operations Officer for the Hawaii National Guard. Lieutenant Colonel John Udani enlisted in the Hawaii Army National Guard in 1991 as a private first class with 292nd Quartermaster Company. 3 years later, Lieutenant Colonel Udani attended Officer Candidate School at the Hawaii Military Academy, where he was commissioned as an infantry officer in 1995. His first officer assignment was Delta Company, 2nd Battalion, 299th Infantry Battalion, as an anti-armor platoon leader. Within a few years, he was assigned to Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion, 299th Infantry, as an infantry platoon leader and later as an executive officer. In 2003, Lieutenant Colonel Udani returned to Delta Company, 2nd Battalion, 299th Infantry, as a company commander and deployed to his company to Baghdad, Iraq, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom 3. In 2006, Lieutenant Colonel Udani was assigned as a Squadron S3 Operations Officer for the 1st of the 299 Cavalry Regiment. He deployed again in 2008 in support of Iraqi Freedom 8 as a Squadron S3, the mission to conduct convoy security escort in Kuwait and Iraq. Upon his return, Lieutenant Colonel Udani was assigned as the 29th Infantry Brigade Combat Team and held various positions to include Information Operations Officer, Civil Affairs Officer, until he was selected to attend the residence course at ILE, Intermediate Level Education at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Returning from ILE, he was assigned as the Plans and Operations Officer at the headquarters, Hawaii National Guard Directorate of the Operations and Military Support, DOMS, at the Joint Operations Center in the JOC. In 2012, Lieutenant Colonel Udani deployed for a third combat tour in Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom with the 29th Infantry Brigade Combat Team as the Security Forces Advisory Team Commander. Following his OEF deployment, he remained with the headquarters at the 29th IBCT, where he was assigned with other challenging positions such as Brigade Plans Officers, Brigade S3, Brigade Executive Officer, as well as the 29th IBCT's Administrative Officer. Lieutenant Colonel Udani took command of the 1st Squadron 299 Cavalry Regiment in 2017 and deployed his cavalry regiment to Egypt in support of the Multinational Forces and Observers mission. After a successful overseas deployment to the Sinai, Lieutenant Colonel Udani relinquished command of the 299th Cavalry Regiment and was assigned as the Hawaii Army National Guard EXO Executive Officer to the acting Chief of Staff until his departure to his Senior Service College, or also known as War College, at the National Defense University, Washington, D.C. Lieutenant Colonel Udani graduated from his Senior Service College in 2001 and returned to the Hawaii National Guard as the G3's Chief of Operations. On 2022, Lieutenant Colonel Udani returned to the Hawaii National Guard Joint Staff as the J5, also known as Director of Policy and Plan Strategy. In September, Lieutenant Colonel Udani was assigned as the Hawaii National Guard J3, Director of Domestic Operations. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Adjutant General, the State of Hawaii, Major General Kenneth Hara, for his remarks.
All right, Major General Hara retired. Diane, Chief Fox, other distinguished guests, friends, family members, thank you for joining us for such a prestigious moment. I'm sure soon-to-be Colonel Udani is very thankful for you. You know, the one thing is, we always say at promotions, it's really not about just the individual that we're promoted. A lot of times you have mentors that you try to follow and listen to and you know, follow their lead. And then you got tormentors that you shouldn't follow. So I got one in here, you know, like Paul Tamarabuchi. It's amazing that you're successful. But, and you know, the support of the family. So Jenna, Josh, and Joanna, who couldn't join us. John wouldn't be able to do his job without your support. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the soldiers of the Hawaii National Guard. It's because of you, the family. I'm going to highlight a little bit about the, you know, he talked about the background of John. So that was a kind of long bio. I'm going to hit some key points about that. But I was supposed to talk for about 10 minutes, but I found out that General Kawivi, retired, is also going to be speaking. And you guys know, like, it's normally about an hour and a half. So I'm going to cede most of my time to him, and I promise I'm going to be really, really quick. So the first thing, the MC said that John joined the National Guard in 1991 in the 292nd Quartermaster Company. So this is part of the old 297th Supply and Services Battalion. Those units no longer exist. So what does that tell you? He's old. So another point that the MC said that he went to the Hawaii Military Academy for Officer Candidate School, graduating in 1995. Well, where he actually went to school no longer exists. That tells you that he's old, and old colonels, right? So you can see the theme that I'm going on. But the one thing is, John has always been successful. He's a superb leader. He listens, but he is super kolohe. That's a super troublemaker, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. I think the first time I really dealt really closely with him, he was one of my company commanders in the first deployment to Baghdad. So we were in a pretty dangerous place, 2004, 2005. We had a combination of the perimeter security and then the battle space outside. But his units, they had this plush little location, and he had a pretty good life. But there's one officer that he and this other, back then Captain Paul again, I think you guys know, another super kolohe guy, they would keep punking this one captain. I mean, always playing jokes on him, picking on him, and just, that guy would always come to me complaining. So I gave him an order to stop messing with him. But they kind of listen, right? So they play a practical joke. I'm angry, so I grab him, and again, and I'm like yelling at him, and the other guy was like, oh, it wasn't us, we didn't do it. And Johnny Sink was like, well, we kind of did, because we actually started this thing, but super, super kolohe. But since he went in so much depth in the bio, I'm not going to go through, but he went to pretty significant deployments. I think you're the operations officer for the 299 CAP. Oh, another point. So when John was in 1st Delta Company, 2nd Battalion, 299 Infantry, and then Charlie Company under Paul Tamarabuchi, I made a joke, but superb leadership from Paul. The CAB, that unit converted to the CAB, so that infantry battalion no longer exists again. So again, showing that he's a very, very old person. But I'll leave it at that. John, congratulations, super duper proud of you, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this ceremony. Cool.
Thank you, Major General Hara. At this time, we'd like to welcome Brigadier General Retired Moses Kauivi Jr. to say a few words.
Yeah. Thanks, Ruben. Everybody, welcome, General Gary Hara, the first two-star general in the Hara family. General Retired Logan Chief, and of course, the second General Hara, not the first, General Kenneth Hara. Distinguished guests, the rest of you, and the family, thank you for being here, and thank you, John, and all you guys for allowing me to be here and participate in this celebration. And mostly thank you, General Hara, for giving me 30 minutes so I can spend 2 hours up here. 2 hours. 2 hours is fine, right, John? No, not gonna take that long. But so you heard John's background, and I'd like to say that a little bit, not so much as what General Hara stated, because General Hara, when he mentions that John is old, he forgets he's older than John. So every time you heard him say that means he's old, there's him pointing the finger back at him saying, I'm older. So, which means I'm also old because I'm retired, so. Yeah, and older than General Hara. So, yeah, that's where I was kind of chuckling inside my seat over there, but a couple of highlights about John. And let's go back to what Ruben stated concerning his biography. Most people don't know this, but in 1995, because everybody else who knows this is old and gone, but back in 1995, we had a transition into one battalion, one infantry battalion. The 299th had two battalions, the 1st and the 2nd Battalion. And I still remember in 1995, the discussions we were looking at concerning who of all the officers that we have across the 1st and 2nd Battalion are we going to keep in the 2nd Battalion. It is not like we're going to terminate or get rid of the other officers, but all these other officers would have to be placed in other positions across the Hawaii Army National Guard in different types of units. And for an infantry officer, you know, your desire is to be within the infantry unit, and not everybody could have been in it, could make it into the infantry unit. So when you're looking at John, he graduates from Hawaii Military Academy, comes into the 299th, and we go into this transition, and we got to choose. And I remember in October 1995, we had a lot of these lieutenants that we had to work through, and we had an annual training in Oregon, and we only selected, it was myself, I know it was Colonel Toy, we had, at the time, Lieutenant Colonel Tamai, and Yamashiro at that time, who was the Major Yamashiro, who looked at all the officers, and John, of course, distinguished himself among some of the other officers that he was chosen to stay within the 299, which shows you how he started his career with an exceptional ability to perform and do the jobs necessary. And so, you know, and then you fast forward to the deployment, and I know General Hara, the 2nd General Hara, he doesn't choose people lightly, and he doesn't keep people lightly. So you know him, and all, despite the jokes he made, the fact that he kept John on is a tremendous reflection of John's capabilities and trust that General Hara had in him concerning his ability to go out there in a combat zone, keep his people safe, and accomplish the mission. So that's another thing about John that we need to know, because these things is what made John who he is today. These things, his character, his ability to be a leader, his integrity, even though he's a little bit kolohe at the time, and he still is a little bit kolohe. He hides it better. He hides it better from me when I was in charge of him, although some of the things that I cannot talk about, not because of what he did, but because of how things occurred and how he used to make fun of some people, shouldn't be talked about. But there's one thing John used to say, it was like, I'm the taller John. And if you understand what that means, there's another John that used to be around that he would, and that's part of his Kalohe thing. So when John was, when I came back to the brigade in 2016 as a brigade commander, John was my executive officer. And he did a tremendous job coordinating the staff. He took all the stress away from me so I could be a leader. I didn't have to be a staff officer. I was full-time here as the administrative officer for the brigade, but John took care of the staff. He took care of all the staff work. All I had to do was make the big rock decisions, and which allowed me to make decisions based off of big things like, okay, how are we doing this XCTC training? Where is it going? I can make decisions. He did all the details, which took a burden off of me. We did tremendously great during XCTC because of John being the brigade XO. But because John was the brigade XO, he, like General Hara mentioned, would play a little bit tricks on some of the staff. So one of the things he would do is every time we went on a planning conference or trip and we stopped by a Starbucks, he would go in front of the other John. And when the you know how the baristas, they say, hey, what is your name? And he'd just put down taller John. Because the other John didn't like to be known as the smaller John. But anyway, it was funny to see when you get the cup come in and the barista's like, taller John, taller John. And then So, of course, John Udani goes up and grabs, he's all smiling, and the other guy behind him is like this. Because it was an inside joke, but it was all clean fun. But that's another example of how John was being a little bit kalohe. But going back to XCTC, the brigade did a tremendous amount of work during XCTC. And for those of you who don't know, the Exportable Combat Training Center is what XCT stands for. And it's like that test you get prior to your ability to move forward and get into the next level. And it's all at platoon level training. John was so good at what he was doing. When we got up to XCTC, we had a problem with some of the log sync that was occurring. And I looked at John and I said, John, from now on, and this was like 3 days in or something, and I said, John, you taking care of this log sync, no questions. You go inside there, you sit down, and you sync this stuff. Because when we first got there, we had problems with ammunition, draws, distribution, equipment. A couple other companies came in without their M60, well, M60, see, that shows you how I'm old. Talking M60s, 240 Bravo machine guns, not the M60. But we had all those problems, but John was able to make it happen. He was able to bring guys in, bring the companies, the staffs, the battalion S4s, and some of the supply sergeants in from the companies, and was able to create this plan in order to make sure that as these units go through the lanes they need, they had the necessary equipment. So there was an intricate plan on how to distribute equipment and cross-level equipment across the units. And we came out of XCTC with glowing remarks and very successful XCTC for the brigade. And I couldn't have done it as a brigade commander if I had a tremendous staff and leaders out there, but one of the integral and key parts to that was John Udani. So hats off to John, because your success has been my success. Without you, I don't think I would have had a great XCTC experience. Although me and Sergeant Major was having fun eating our pork rinds and salsa over there inside as we visited the units. Another thing to note, so it's a significant key position as an XO. Not everybody gets to be a brigade XO in the Hawaii Army National Guard, let alone the infantry brigade XO for the 29th. And so you can tell that it is not a job that is taken lightly, or you just can place anyone in there, but you can place somebody in there who can do the job and do it well, and that's John. So another thing is, so I moved on, and before I moved on, I recommended John as the next battalion commander, and I talked to Roy McArag, Major General McArag now, when he was coming back to be the brigade commander, and we talked about it, and we both agreed that John is probably the best 299 commander that would be in line. And as such, that was a good decision because, again, the brigade deployed, they split up across various types of security missions, and John, alone, not with support from the brigade, had to go in alone as a battalion, take his battalion into Egypt, do that multinational, that peacekeeping mission over in the Sinai. And again, he did a tremendous job, brought back the battalion safe, as well as made his mark within the Middle East, down there in Egypt, showing what the Hawaii Army National Guard, specifically the 299, can do. And he represented us very well in accomplishing that mission. And so it was natural to look at the next step, right? John comes back, he goes into various positions, and then he applies for a senior service college, and he gets accepted to the National Defense University. And it's not just, let alone trying to get in the U.S. Army War College is hard enough. It's very difficult. But to get into the National Defense University, where, normally, you can see a lot of four-star generals coming out of in their background. You can see that National Defense University in there. I didn't go, that's why I had to retire. I went to the Army War College. But again, it shows you how John was trusted to take on that position there, to represent Hawaii as well as represent the National Guard. And I remember John coming up to me and saying, "Sir, I don't know, look at me, I'm just a local boy. I'm going to be up there with all these smart guys." And I looked at John, I said, "John, don't second guess yourself. I mean, look at the experiences," and I laid it out like I'm talking to you guys now. I talked about all the stuff that he went through, the frame of reference that he has, the experience that he developed throughout his years. I said, "John, you have probably more experience, real life type of experience, than most of the people going to have inside of your class, or let alone your seminar group. So don't sell yourself short, because you're going to be sitting down with all these guys who are thinking that they're smarter than everybody else, and then you can realize, really, that's what the guy just said? I cannot believe he just said that." And I told him, people just sometimes like to talk just to talk, but you're going to be there, and you're going to have that foundation, that knowledge, and that experience that you can talk intelligently to the topic at hand. So don't sell yourself short. And he graduated, and he came back. And when he came back, the first thing I was thinking was, oh, John's back. Now that I'm the director of Joint Staff, how can I get him back in the Joint Staff? And was able to make that happen. We got him as the J5. And he hit the ground running as the J5. He came in, started taking over what Colonel Hatcher was doing, right? And Colonel Hatcher was in mid-drift, and he moved out, and John came in, and he just kept the operations going, the planning going. And not only that, John, when Colonel Garcia was retiring and processing out, John took on 2 jobs. He took on the job as a J5 as well as the job as a J3. And he did not let anything fall to pieces. That's how good he was at organizing, how good he was at planning, understanding what needed to be done, and prioritizing. So that's why I'm happy to see John here today getting promoted to colonel, because he has paid his dues. He has shown that he has reached that level of maturity and trust within the United States Army. And I couldn't be more happy for anybody, such as I am happy today for John, for getting to this moment in his career, for all the things he's done for the organization, for myself when I was fortunate enough to be a supervisor, and for the United States of America, because with him I know his influence has been across the board, not only locally here in Hawaii, but nationally, in the peoples and the lives he touched, as well as internationally during his deployment. So hats off to you, John. Thank you for your service, and thank you for you and your family, and for what you guys have been doing to support John and the organization. So thank you, everybody, and thank John. Let's give John a great big hand for his time today.
Thank you, Brigadier General Retired Moses Kawivi. At this time, Lieutenant Colonel Udani, General Lynn, and Josh, please join us up front for the pinning ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated while the orders are published. Major General Hara, request your permission to publish the orders. Attention to orders. Department of Defense, National Guard Bureau, Washington, D.C. Special Order 239, dated 24 July 2023. By order of the Secretary of the Army and direction of the President, John V. Udani is extended federal recognition and appointed as a reserve of the Army in the grade of Colonel under Authority 32, United States Code 305 and 307, and 10 United States Code 143315, effective 8 May 2023. By order of the Secretaries of the Army and the Air Force, signed, General Daniel Hokanson, General, United States Army, Chief, National Guard Bureau. Thank you, Jenilyn and Josh. You may return to your seats at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, Major General Hara will now administer the oath of office to Colonel Udani.
Udani,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I'll support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii,
and the Constitution of the United States of Hawaii,
that I'll bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I'll obey the orders of the President of the United States
obey the orders of the President of the United States
and the Governor of the State of Hawaii,
and the Governor of the State of Hawaii,
that I make this obligation freely,
that I make this obligation freely,
without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion,
and that I'll well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of Colonel
the duties of office of Colonel
in the Army National Guard
in the Army National Guard
of the State of Hawaii,
the State of Hawaii,
on which I'm about to enter,
upon which I'm about to enter.
so help me
So
God.
help me God. Thank you,
Congratulations.
sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce to you Colonel John V. Udani.
Thanks, Major Kim. Major General Kenneth Hara and Brigadier General Retired Moses Kawivi. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for those kind words. Though what General Kawivi said, it's not me really, it was the staff or the XCTC stuff it was. So in addition to the distinguished attendees that mentioned by Major Kim, we also have other distinguished guests here. Colonel Tahara, the Harang Chief of Staff that just flew in from GRTC in Louisiana is here, along with the Harang Chief, the Command Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Jimenez. Thanks for being here, gentlemen. Also, we have the, I rehearsed this before you all showed up, and I just lost my place. The 103rd Troop Commander is here. Colonel Tucker, I know I saw you earlier. There you are. The, of course, Commander for the 298 MFTR, Colonel Hogston. Thank you. Let's not forget the retired General, Major General, retired previous TAG, Chief of Police, Sir, Colonel Joe Logan, along with his deputy. Where you at, sir? Keith Horikawa, thank you. Major General retired Hara and Diane, thank you, sir, for being here. We have Colonel Thompson, that's also here. She's the Chief of the Joint Staff. She's here somewhere. Ma'am, or I guess I can call you Jamelin. The new director of the Joint Staff, General Ross, sir, thank you. We have Colonel Troy Collin here too. I know I saw him here earlier. Thank you. Your cousin said he was going to come, Chris Collin, but he's not here. G3. Is he here? Hey, sorry. My bad. See, I did have your name in here. Colonel Mendoza, G3. We have the G4 here as well. Thanks, Guna. Colonel Putiket, Command Chief Fort Perubru. I know I saw you in here earlier. We have a couple of Sergeant Majors in here as well. Retired colonels. We have Colonel Paul Tamurabuchi that's here somewhere. And then we also have retired Colonel Paul, Uncle Rudy Lixe. There you are, sir. Not because you're old, it's just, because. I know I missed some of you. I apologize up front, and to the rest of my family and friends and the rest of my esteemed colleague, aloha and mahalo for taking the time to be here. It's Friday afternoon, it's late. Some of you guys, or some of us, will be back tomorrow for drill early in the morning. I forgot the SAO here, that's always helping me too when something comes up with any RFA. So Byron, thanks for being here, my friend. More thank yous later on in my speech, but please allow me to extend my special mahalo to the team that put this together. Less than a week. It's Mr. Imai that really started working on this even on his day off and during his leave. And then all this stuff here and the music, what you guys heard when you all came in here, that's from Major Kim, the MC. You never say no when I ask you for anything, thank you. And Chief Varaya. our chaplain. So when he was at JRTC, he said, "Oh, I cannot make it. The federal prison won't let me take off." He's not an inmate, obviously, right? He works there. But on Wednesday, he emails us saying, "Oh, I'm able to come. So, chaplain, thank you very much for being here." And then, of course, we also had Chaplain Kiragawa as a backup, just in case. But, gentlemen, thank you for being here. Again, I could go on and list all these wonderful members of the joint staff here, but we'll be here forever, so I'll stop there. But I will not forget to mention First Sergeant Reyes. He's the only one that was left behind. I don't know if he's here, but he was the rear det for the 29th Brigade, and he made sure that we had displays, the AC's on. Thanks, Stop, if you're in here. Today, I'm really humbled, blessed, and filled with immense gratitude and honor as I express my most profound appreciation for the opportunity bestowed upon me. General Ross, you said this on your promotion, and I'm not really saying wow, right? So I'm saying that, really, wow. Being promoted to the rank of colonel, or 06, in the Army is a very momentous occasion, obviously, for me. I never thought that I'd be pinning some eagle on my uniform here when I first joined as a private first class in the early 90s. Yes, General Hara, I'm old. Or you're still older. After graduating from OCS, back at Bellows with our great TAC officers, Captain Paul Tomorabuchi, Captain Brian Santamer, he's now a retired general. I joined the 299 Infantry, like General Howard said, and then we went to the deployment in Iraq. And sir, in one of your OPDs with your officers, OPDs, Officer Professional Development, we were all sitting there, and one of the things when you were talking to us, I kind of kept in my mind, and I told myself is that one day I would take your job as a commander of the 299. And I did, but not the infantry. That was my ultimate goal, and I told myself, in addition to taking command, I want to deploy them. So you heard we transitioned over to the CAV, and I took my unit to not Kuwait, but to Sinai in Egypt. But before all that, I'm going off script now, I'm sorry about that. After coming back from the deployment in Iraq with Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth Hara at that time, we deployed again to not Afghanistan, but to Kuwait and Iraq with Colonel Ligzey. He was the squadron commander, and I was his S3. Another great deployment, even though it was kind of fell short for me. I had to come home a little bit sooner, a different challenge that I had to fight with. It's called lymphoma. Not an easy one, but I went through it. One thing I will not forget though, Brigadier General Gary Hara back then, sir, and Diane, you guys stood there late evening, receiving me at the airport. You probably don't remember this, sir, ma'am, but that meant a lot. You know, before I went to Tripler, you guys were there, the only ones there. Thank you. Did some chemo, did some radiation, and I was back in uniform. And went to CGSC, or Command General Staff College, and then the luck continued when I applied for an AGR. I got selected. There's another thing that I will never forget is studying for that AGR board, which was led by the president of that board at that time was Colonel Kawivi. Sir, you had Lieutenant Colonel Courtney Varys-Lum and Major Calvin Arroyo. Stayed up late trying to study for all your possible questions you may have. I must have done something right because you guys hired me. So that's when I started my AGR career. And then we went to another deployment, as you all heard, with General Hara, Kenneth Hara, into Afghanistan. And sir, you know, before we came back, you said, once we go home, I want you to take a knee and be the ops officer at the brigade. So we came home, I came here. It was evident that the brigade ops officer position was really a position to enhance my military experience, and I think he just wanted me to become a better officer because, at least from my point of view, it wasn't a position to take a knee. I'm sure Major Kim and Major Ichimura can relate to that. But sir, I'm not complaining, of course. Being at the brigade operations officer, I became the S3, and like General Kawivi said, as the XO, we went to JRTC. I supposedly did all the good things, but again, like what I said, it was the Joe Burdette, it was the Alan Kahanu, and all those other staff. We were just working together. And then Colonel Kawivi at that time called me and said, hey, we're offering you the 1st 209 Cav Squadron. And immediately I said, yes, sir, I want it. And icing on the cake, like what I said earlier, we deployed to the Sinai in Egypt. And yes, that was the best deployment ever. Better than SFAT, sir. Thank you to the 2020 Harang SSC, or Senior Service College. I don't know what you guys saw me, but you sent me to War College in NDU, or the National Defense University. I must tell you, though, sir, the academic environment with my public education and ESL, it didn't make this course as easy as people claim it to be, including you, Chaplain. You said, oh, it's going to be easy. But hey, I graduated, I got A's and B's, and I lost some weight, burning the midnight oil, writing my thesis. Sir, I think I cited your paper that you did way back when, but that was some experience there. And then I was trying to keep up with Major General McEreg, who was already back in DC, and he would call me and say, hey, let's go to this short and easy Shenandoah hikes. Thanks, Major General McEreg, for all the support while in DC. Major General Kenneth Hara, I really humbled by the trust and confidence that you and the rest of the team place in me. It is with great pleasure that I extend my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you who have contributed to my journey thus far. It is through yours and the rest of the mentors here, unwavering support, guidance, and mentorship that I've been able to reach this significant milestone. Your vision, your dedication, your commitment to excellence have shaped my professional growth and the values and principles I hold dear as a member of the Hawaii National Guard in the United States Army. Your confidence in me and my ability, sir, has inspired me, and I'm deeply honored for your trust in me. Now, I briefly mentioned earlier that I want to again extend my heartfelt appreciation to all the soldiers and airmen that I've worked with and served with throughout my career, my fellow colleagues, Huna, and everybody else whose unwavering support and camaraderie have been invaluable throughout my journey. Thank you. Your wealth of knowledge, experience, you guys were always sharing and helped me my personal growth. I'm privileged to have worked alongside such remarkable people like you all, and I'm grateful for the strong bonds that we have formed. Almost done. To my mentors, both past and present, some of you might not even know that you're my mentor, but I've been kind of looking up to you. I'm forever indebted to you. From First Sergeant Manny Barrows, I thought the administrator would be here. When I was at PFC, he was my first sergeant. He was also a police sergeant at that time. And today, we're very fortunate to have my first platoon sergeant, Milton Yee. Where you at, Milton? Milton Yee, my first platoon sergeant there. Thank you. And then my first sergeant, when my first deployment is also here, Philip O'Malley. Thank you, top. To my TAC officers, one of them is here. Company commanders, battalion commanders, brigade commanders, I could go on. The J3s, Colonel Moses Kawivi, Ed Toy you mentioned. The sergeant majors, the Richard Tanakas, the Ronald Shibas, they're not here, but thank those guys, and Brandon Kumalai, who's getting ready to come back from JRTC. The mentorship alone was complemented with all the blessings from God, and thank you, everyone. And the best support from no other than my great family, especially my sweet wife, Jenalyn, my daughter, Joanna, who's unfortunately not here, like the tag said. She's in Nebraska. She's graduating next week. And Josh. I could not have done all this accomplishment that you heard and previously mentioned without you guys. Your support and your sacrifice, so thank you. Jenna, Josh, and Joanna, when you see this later, I'm forever grateful to all of you. Your unwavering support, sacrifice, and understanding have been the bedrock of my success. Your love, encouragement have given me the strength to persevere, even in the most demanding of times. I'm forever grateful beyond words for your presence here in my life. I promise I'll continue to make you guys proud. To my parents, who's not here, unfortunately, they're still recovering from a Cat 4 hurricane that happened in the Philippines last week. But from the early days, they've always been there, very significant taught me to do the right thing. To my sister, Janet, that's here, and the phone that keeps going off. My brother Wilkins, that's not here. My Auntie Marie, Uncle Basilio, Auntie Nanette, Auntie Siri, my dear friends present here today, Eddie Chu, I know you just flew in as well, and now next to you, Phoebe. Emmy said she'll be here. I'm sure she's here. Yeah, hey, Emmy. Kathy, Sergeant Major, retired Robert Unoy, Faye, BJ, Nestor, I know you're here, Angelo, Christian, I don't even see Christian Francisco, and all my friends and family, thanks for being here. As I start this new chapter of my career, I do so with profound sense of duty, responsibility, and commitment to our great state and nation. I just did my oath again, and I'm fully aware of the challenges that lie ahead, but I'm also confident, sir, in my abilities with the rest of the team that we'll continue to uphold the values and traditions that make our Army the finest in the world. I'm very grateful and thankful to all of you. Let us continue to strive, excellence, embrace, and prepare for the many challenges that are before us, whether it's our near-peer competitors, JRTC folks, you guys know what it's all about, volcanoes erupting, damaging lava flows, or Hurricane Dora, if you're paying attention, that's about 1,800 miles east-southeast of Hilo. Should be going south, though, from this morning. We must and we will work tirelessly to fulfill our state and federal mission. Thank you all for being here today and supporting me throughout my journey. I'm blessed to have such a loving and supportive family and friends like you guys. I look forward to celebrating many more milestones together. God bless those who gave the ultimate sacrifices. God bless those who are recovering from lifelong injuries. And God bless those who are in harm's way today as they continue to preserve freedom. May we continue to serve our great state and nation with honor, integrity, and unwavering commitment. I promise that was the last paragraph. Thank you very much. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Udani. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the benediction given by Chaplain Godiz.
Let us pray. Lord God, as this ceremony comes to a close, accept our thanks for Colonel Udani and his family for their many sacrifices. Help us to stand beside him as he takes on greater responsibility. And now let heaven's benediction descend upon him and abide with us all. Amen.
Thank you. At this time, we would like to conclude today's ceremony with the playing of the Army song. March along, sing our song, we're the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're the army and proudly proclaim. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might. And the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. Then it's hi, hi, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the cadence loud and strong. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal ceremony. Colonel Udani and his family will be taking photos for the next 15 minutes. Once that is complete, you have the opportunity to congratulate him and his family in the Assembly Hall. Colonel Udani and his family would like to welcome everyone to the Assembly Hall for refreshments. On behalf of Major General Hara, Colonel Udani and his family, mahalo nui loa for attending today's ceremony. Thank you.